The Earth is about 4.6 billion years old. For the first billion of those, it was just rock, lava, and water. No life anywhere. Then something changed, and we still don't fully know what triggered it. Simple cells showed up in the ocean. That's it. That's the start. One cell, then more cells, then, after about 3 billion more years of basically nothing dramatic happening, multicellular life. Dinosaurs get about 165 million years. Humans, the actual species we are now, have been around for roughly 300,000 years. If you put all of Earth's history on a 24-hour clock, humans show up in the last 4 seconds before midnight. For most of those 300,000 years, we were hunter gatherers. Small group, no permanent homes, following food. Then, around 12,000 years ago, in a handful of places at roughly the same time, people figured out farming. Mesopotamia, the Yellow River in China, the Indus Valley, Mesoamerica, different continents, no contact with each other, same idea. Plant seeds, stay in one place, grow food instead of chasing it. Farming changed everything that came after it. You can't build a city if everyone has to leave to hunt. But if food is growing in one spot, people stay. Cities need organization, organizations need writing to track debts and harvest and who owes what to whom. The earliest known writing, cuneiform, was mostly used for accounting. Once you have cities, you need empires. Egypt, unified around 3100 BCE and lasted in some form for close to 3000 years. That's longer than the gap between us and Cleopatra. Cleopatra lived closer in time to the moon landing than to the building of the pyramids. Rome came later, built an empire that stretched from Britain to the Middle East and eventually fell apart from the inside. Overextended, financially drained, and no longer able to defend borders that had grown too large to hold. That fall took centuries. While Rome was collapsing in the West, other things were happening elsewhere that don't always make it into the same sentence. The Islamic Golden Age was translating and preserving Greek philosophy, while much of Europe had lost access to it. China had a functioning postal system and paper money centuries before Europe figured out either. Then the printing press in the 14,000s, and suddenly information could spread faster than any single ruler could control. That's not a small detail. Ideas that used to take a lifetime to travel could now move in weeks. Colonization reshaped the map starting in the late 1400s, and it's worth being direct about what that involved. European powers claimed territory across the Americas, Africa, and Asia, often through violence, disease, and forced labor, and the effects of that period are still shaping borders and economies today. This isn't a footnote. It's one of the heaviest chapters in the whole timeline. Industrialization hit in the 1700s and 1800s. Steam power, factories, railroads. For the first time in human history, a person's labor wasn't limited to what their body alone could produce. One machine could do the work of dozens of people. That single change moved millions from farms into cities within a couple of generations. Then, the 20th century compressed change into an even smaller window. Two world wars, atomic weapons, the collapse of European colonial empires, satellites, computers, the internet. Someone born in 1900 could have lived through horse drawn carriages and rotary phones as a kid and lived long enough to see a man walk on the moon. And now, here we are, on a screen, at whatever hour you're listening to this, at the very last lever of the 24-hour clock. Everything before this moment Every empire, every war, every farming village that never made it into a textbook led us here.